bitch all you want right now. We're live.
We are live.
Yeah, our poor baby. We're trying to
What baby?
get him to lose weight. Trying to get him desperately to lose weight.
Oh, we're waiting on our guests. But anyway, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Welcome back to Crossroads. I'm Jody. We have John and Sabrina and Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy. Bobowdy.
So how was everybody's holidays?
Quiet. Nice and quiet.
That's even better.
Which was perfect. Nothing. My parents went to Atlantic City. They did their thing on Christmas. We just stayed home and relaxed. We actually had Chinese food. We went out to get Chinese, which was awesome. You know, we just did something different, you know. Yeah. Watched A Christmas Story, and then we went to eat Chinese, which was awesome.
I forgot, dude. Oh yeah, we went to the pub for New Year's Eve.
Oh yeah, we went out to dinner on New Year's Eve, but you know, because of waiting so long for a table, you know, we got pretty lit, really lit. Oh. And we came home and then we like crashed.
Who drove?
Well, not like that. Well, no, yeah.
Oh, not lit like that.
Not that lit. No, you didn't come
just a wee bit lit, right?
No, it hit him when he came home because he had the last martini, and then he was fine. Oh. And then he went in, and he had a what do you call it? Food coma.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did you guys have pork and sauerkraut?
No.
I had have that for New Year's Day.
No.
I do.
Oh my God! It's the rules.
What?
You have to have pork and sauerkraut. It's the rules.
I don't like pork. I don't like sauerkraut at all.
Oh my gosh.
At all. I am not
my birthday meal.
I like sauerkraut. It tears me
I could eat that right out of the jar. Sauerkraut is amazing.
I know. Thank you, John. You could have came to my house and had some pork and sauerkraut.
No.
There you go.
Oh, yummy, yummy. My mom would make us meals for our birthdays, and mine was always pork and sauerkraut in July.
No.
Nice to see everybody.
Hi,
nice
Ron.
to see you too. We're talking about food while we wait.
Yeah,
not complaining.
Yummy, yummy. Hi, Greggy.
I can't cook any of it, but I'll listen to it. I'm a consumer.
Hi,
where's your woman?
She is almost done.
Is she going potty?
Probably. Who am I to ask?
But we want to know how your holiday was, Ron.
It was good. It was quiet. Yeah, a lot of families. With your kids, it's like tons of people, big crowded parties, and then as you get older, people move away and scatter. So it's gotten smaller.
Right.
Her kids are both in Florida, including her granddaughter. My son came back from college for a few weeks, 3 weeks. So that was my highlight of it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I enjoyed having him around. He
left
on
dinner here for Christmas. I brought my dad and my stepmom. Is that what you want to call her? His wife.
Yeah.
And go ahead, John. I know.
Hi, guys.
I saw that face. I saw that. Hi.
Happy New
How
Year.
are you all? Nice to see you all.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I like your background. That's really cool.
It's new, and we'll talk about that because I don't know if you saw, there was a post. We were partnered with the couples in Arizona for Staticom, and we had differences on some vision and some stuff where we wanted things to go and how we saw stuff. So we're on separate paths with it now.
Oh,
yeah.
John, make sure we're public, okay?
Yep, we're good.
I saw where we are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome our guests, Ron and Lourdes. How are you guys?
We're good.
Good, thank you.
How are you?
It was forever to get you guys here, right? We had so many catastrophes going on. Yeah, but I'm so glad you're here now.
As are we.
Yes, we are.
Now that the holidays are over, everybody's just like settling back in,
and my husband fixed the computer so it won't crash on me again.
Yeah,
I got a new computer too, you know.
Yeah, I got the new computer. Santa brought her a new one.
Yeah, I'm the Santa that bought myself a new one. It was my Christmas gift to myself because I haven't had one. I had like one of those Chromebooks for years, and it's terrible. And like I broke down finally, and it's like I really need to get a laptop, you know. So here I am, and we could see better in my screen. I don't have the cool background like you do.
Really quick before we start, Pam and Gina, happy birthday.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. Happy birthday, Pam. Happy birthday, Gina.
Pam Barry, Gina Binkson. Yeah.
Yep.
Very special day. Two very special ladies.
Celebrating on the same day.
And they're so close, and they have their same birthday too. That's so cool.
Isn't that
their birthday?
Isn't that cool?
Best friends, and they're celebrating birthdays together. That's so cool.
That is quite cool.
So anybody that's listening and wants to ask any questions, just go into the chat room and you can ask questions, and we'll try to get them to these wonderful guests of ours.
Too kind.
They're all on there. Happy New Year, everyone. Carmen and Keith Bailey and Todd, Greg.
Greg O'Brien, awesome. Todd, Coco, Tylo, Carmen, Keith Bailey. Very nice to see all these people.
Yes.
All good people. All good peoples.
So you two, tell us a little bit about yourselves for people who don't know who you are. There you go. It's all on you.
She's the one in the hat.
Okay.
I'm the less cute one.
I would not say that.
All you need to know.
Yeah, but she's stuck with you now.
You always start long. I chime in.
Stuck with them, right?
Yeah. Yep. So our names right there, Ronnie Acavetti and Lourdes Gonzalez. We are ITC researchers. I'm an author. I have 5 books on Amazon. Currently, I've written 3 academic white papers, co-authored a 4th one. We do spirit communication, ITC, instrumental trance communication, as it is known. We started back in 2019, reviving, at least in America, I should say, because I know that direct radio voice, which predates any Frank's Box, Spirit Box, or Ghost Box, was predominantly what was done in Europe. And then in America, I don't know how much it had even caught on, but it fell off as soon as paranormal stuff went mainstream media and people saw the sweeping Ghost Box modality, and that was it. So and then it kind of fell by the wayside. We revived it in 2019 and then developed it over a few years. For 2 or so years, we were partnered with Tony Rathman in Arizona, and we had renamed it Staticom due to removing the radio as the white noise source. And at this point now, which I think from a research perspective may end up being very good, we had some differences in vision and stuff. So Tony will continue to work on what's called Staticom and go in his direction. We're going with what was something that I had titled my 3rd book, The Digital Seance Initiative, because we are doing a form of mediumship within which the medium is an electronic medium. It is not a person. Though we have done events with mediums such as the talented Mr. John Covey, and it's worked quite well in tandem with mediums. So that's who I am. I can explain more of the method and everything else as we go on, but that's who it is. And I'm from New Jersey. I started doing paranormal investigating 13 years ago, 13, 14 years ago when I lived in Los Angeles, which prayers to those people, because I know a lot of those areas where those fires are happening. I remember, not to derail the conversation, but I remember driving over roads going through the little valleys and seeing the hillsides in the distance bright orange.
Wow.
And it is not comfortable even when you know you're at a safe distance. And I almost had to be evacuated one time. It was in, I forget what year, it was called the Cessnon fire up by Porter Ranch. So yeah, my heart goes out to those folks. That is not something easy to.
Prayers. Yes,
it's unnerving even to know it's nearby, even if it doesn't threaten your home. So, but anyway, that's where I started doing paranormal stuff. Moved back to New Jersey in 2014. Worked with a team for a little while, and she and I, and she'll tell her part of the story. We decided that we liked being just us as a team, because we get to meet all you wonderful people and work with you instead of being on a 15, 20 person team where we can't do that.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah, it's true.
So for me, I was born with, like a lot of people, I was born into the paranormal. I had paranormal experiences all my life. It was the norm for me because my family practices espiritismo, which is a form of mediumship in the Caribbean.
Oh, cool.
It's physical mediumship. And actually, I saw something that traumatized me. And so I shied away from it all my life. Like, I would argue with my mom about the practices and things like that. But I did know that the paranormal was real because I would still get experiences such as dreams and things like that people, experience. So, but I wasn't really, like supporting it, I guess. And then I met Ron in 2006, and then he brought me back on. And then I just fell in love. My first EVP that I caught on a digital recorder, and I was hooked. Like the trauma went, phew, I don't know what and I just jumped right back in, and no stopping from there because I love doing it. And part of I'm kind of happy we're going back to the digital seance experience now, we're calling it, instead of initiative, because when we started doing it, we noticed that we were getting a lot of personal experiences for other people. They were getting experiences, family members, loved ones, best friends, whatever it was. And that I felt was important. We felt it was important. And we feel like that's why we should continue to be able to help people with whatever it is that they need through spirit.
Yeah, that has a very touchy ring to it. I like the new name.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I initially came up with the title because we were doing events, and this is both disheartening and humorous at the same time. And voices were coming through clear out of pure white noise, clear from the other side or wherever it is, and people are opening up packages of Cheetos and grabbing a few Oreos and popping sodas, and they're not even hearing it. I'm like, wait,
they're missing it. Yeah.
So I thought, you know what's missing here? Because even when you pay attention, you can miss some of what comes through, because 75-80% of communication, give or take, is based on visual. We're not afforded that luxury with an audio medium, so we need to pay attention. So I thought, what is the most focused thing we've seen in this field? It's a seance. You look at those old pictures, it's the people with their hands on their table. They almost look half dead at the table, just like this. But they're paying attention. I went, you know what? We need to do a seance. And I thought, digital seance. And I thought an initiative, a movement to try to get this kind of stuff out there, but in a way that people experience it, because we don't let them deny themselves that by opening up Cheetos. I realize I'm losing an endorsement possibility here. I'm okay with it.
The next Super Bowl ad,
Right?
I can't, because then I would have orange keyboard and stuff from touching those things. So no. So now what she said makes sense, is because this is an experience. And when we bring it out, people have personal experiences. For us, when we want to do it for ourselves, or we experiment, or we try to work on the system, or whatever it is, we can do that at home. When we leave the house to go to somebody's event, it is not about us. It is about whoever is there. And it could be the people working there. It could be the wait staff that happens to be there that night. It could be the attendees, whatever it is.
It could be us, really, because it's all of us.
Right. It could be. But my point was, it's not about for everyone. Us. Right. We're in service to the people who we are amongst when we're doing it, because we feel like that's probably a big reason why we have the opportunity, and we're blessed to be able to do this.
That's awesome. I want to be part of your seance.
Where are you going to go with this now? You have some new, ideas as far as like new events, something different this year? Are you going to the same places, visiting same places, or anything new this year that you're going to in 2025?
That's a good question.
Well, I'm thinking about setting something up at the 76 house, because we've never been. Well, I've never been, I should say.
I have.
Yeah, he has once or twice. He's been, but I've never been. So I was thinking of something like that. But for now, we have our usual places like the Shanley, and then we're going back to the UK again.
Oh,
in September.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Yes, I'd like to hear that.
And that's why I love that question, because one of the things that we try to instill in this field of somewhat chaos these days is gratitude. And I feel like entitlement is what leads to a lot of the problems, because when people aren't given the respect, they're not put on the poster, they're not given the red carpet, they don't get something over somebody else, and it bothers them. And I feel like entitlement and they have every right to feel bothered. But how you handle that, the way you carry yourself forward from that, that's where personal integrity comes in. There are instances I could name where someone's on a speaking circuit somewhere that I'm like, and so why am I going to make a thing of it? If anything, I'm going to rule myself out from whoever it is that put them there, because now I'm the squeaky wheel and I'm whining. I take whatever I get. We take whatever we get, and we're grateful, because nobody, and this is a healthy attitude to me, nobody owes you anything. Anytime, any podcast, any interview, anybody who stops and says, hey, you do that, you know, can you explain? It's gratitude. We're not owed that. So to go to the question now, we have places that we are going back, and that's one of the reasons that we're so happy about it. We see the same people come back, the New Jersey Expo, Power Unity, Battlefield Bash in Gettysburg,
The Pennhurst,
Hanover Tavern, which I'll be doing at the end of this month.
MassPowerCon, but that's over now.
MassPowerCon, when Sam was running it, Sam Petrusis was running it. We're doing the Maine Paranormal and Horror Con, right, for Jeff's Traveling Boards Museum.
Yeah.
Which looks like he's got a hell of a lineup for that one.
And then, we're doing My Haunted Manor again with Daryl Marston. So we are very grateful for people inviting us back to work with them. You know?
And then also to answer Jody's question, we did through this, and this is when you realize how wonderful the community is. We were asked to go present and lecture at Festival of the Unexplained in the UK, because in 2023, Daryl Marston was there in 2023, and he was telling them about what we were doing. And then so they looked up what we were doing, and they called us and went, "Can you guys do this?" And we were like, "Yeah."
Well, heck yeah.
It's 5 days. They cover all the expenses. They bring you out.
Wow.
The place is phenomenal. Nice. Yeah, we were treated very well. Karen Frey, who's the main person who runs it now, I know she has different people who are going to be working with her this year on it. She treated us very well. And so that opportunity for us, with great gratitude to Daryl, transpired. And then we were told that Karen called us from the festival, and she said that people keep asking if you're going to bring anybody back from the States to bring back Ron and Lourdes. And we went, something's wrong with your country. Are you sure?
Oh, stop.
But grateful, because it was the people there were so kind. They were so kind. 5 days this event went. And then on the weekend days, the Friday and Saturday night, there was like a dinner with the open bar, and people were partying and stuff. So we were lecturing Saturday morning at 10:30. I went, I don't know, maybe we'll have a few people.
There were some few heavy drinkers.
Oh yeah, I imagine.
We go in.
Sabrina and Anthony, no.
Thanks, Jody.
You know I love you.
You might want to consider coming over there.
He's drinking water tonight. Can you believe it?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I know.
Are you okay?
Feel his
That's
head,
funny.
Sabrina. Make sure he's okay.
See, I usually drink water.
Because John's the one who's sick.
Oh,
I'm just getting over a cold.
Yeah, he's just getting over a cold.
Aww.
So make sure he didn't pass it along to Anthony.
Yeah. He's good. He's definitely good.
Okay, he's good.
But
So,
yeah,
water.
that is so awesome. I love anywhere, Europe. I love it all. I love just culture. I love meeting.
The place was beautiful.
It's just, that's exciting, and I can't wait.
They had us at the event takes place at Bosworth Hall, which was hotel and spa. It was beautiful. The whole place was really nice. And so that morning I'm figuring people are drinking and partying. Nobody's gonna, who's gonna show up for the lecture at 10:30? The room was packed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Full. I have photos of it.
They had a party.
They can listen. They can party.
They just get up and down. It's normal for them. Just let's
problem.
They're Guinness or whatever. That's not Guinness. That's Irish.
And a lot of the people there, many of them knew who we were and what we did before we got there, because My Haunted Manor, that Daryl, Jeff, and Trey Bader do in Pennsylvania, is affiliated with My Haunted Hotel, which is, for the most part, I know that I forget the other two gentlemen's name, but it's spearheaded by one of whom is Danny Moss. And So everybody over there, through the connection between those shows, the My Haunted headquarters watched My Haunted Manor USA. And we were on 3 of the episodes. We were on 2 episodes, and then the finale one they showed us again because of what we got with what we were doing with our methods. So that, like, it's just,
it was a shock.
yeah.
We were like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was
It's
weird.
amazing over the ocean, and you're recognized for your
Again,
Awesome.
grateful
really
to
is.
Daryl Morrison, right? Because that wouldn't happen. So yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very
Thank
kind.
you, Chris. We agree.
Definitely.
They said you could not have had better guests than you two.
Oh,
Thank you.
very kind.
Yeah.
We agree.
Mhm. That's awesome.
Oh,
Who?
Chris Allgood. I didn't hear the name. Yes,
Oh,
Chris.
good.
Chris Allgood.
It's all good.
Yes, Chris Allgood was in one of the last statements of my recent book, my last book that came out, Afterlife Contact: A New Perspective, and he is bar none one of the most phenomenally kind and genuine people I've ever met. He exudes in integrity and character, loyalty, faith. He's just an all around amazing guy.
That's
And
awesome.
so,
Yep.
we're very grateful for him and
He's
Audra.
all good, actually.
Him and Audra are phenomenal people.
I love how the duo teams, and just like you said, just you two and not having a group. Me being a part of groups, and I don't know, Jody. Jody's been part of groups, and it's just, it's funny how you grow into where you do things on your own, and you got it down now. You know what you're supposed to do, and and it gets more intimate when you have just the duo couple,
just a few.
Yeah, we like
and stuff like that. Nothing to worry about. Just
we weren't, as a duo, and then we work with all different types of teams.
Yeah.
And then we can just, not anything bad or good, but we can pick and choose who, if someone, okay, we don't have to not be friends, but you just use your discretion, right?
Yeah, it's nice to get, hey, what are you doing this weekend? You want to, I rented this space. You want to come on over?
I love doing that.
Just sure, why not? Just grab the, it's not like committed, like you went into groups. You got to go. Everybody has to set up the date. Everybody, things like that. When I was in groups back in, like South Jersey Ghost Research, especially when it was house places, and you really had to work every weekend, and it was a job. It was a job back then. And it is a job, but now, I mean, as you get older, this is fun. Now you're enjoying your passion instead. Before it was a work. It was gratifying. Don't get me wrong. Helping people out at houses and home, and doing all those types of investigations. Sure. But it was work. You were 24/7. I emails, phone calls from people, so it was hard.
Get that.
Especially having a child. My Taylor was, she was like from 4 years old all the way up, and missing soccer games, and sometimes to go to a person's house. It took a lot of dedication. But now it feels like you're in like that retirement mode, and I froze up a second there. That kind of little retirement mode. You get to do it whenever you want, for enjoyment.
Yeah.
Because it's about connecting with spirit, but it's not only connecting with spirit, it was connecting with all of us, whether it be the work part that you were helping people or retiring and making connections like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's about connections all the way around.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool what you said, that you not cool, but when you were traumatized and then you wind up I think that resemble everybody seems to have some kind of trauma.
Yeah, that happened to me too.
And yet they're in the paranormal because something triggers them to decide to go into it and figure things out. Like you were traumatized. I knew Jody was traumatized, and look at where we are. So it's funny how it's comes completely reverses.
I just wanted answers. I wanted answers as to what was bothering me all the time when I was young.
Right.
Because we grew up in a haunted house. So
But it seems like the consensus in the paranormal is that we had some sort of
people
trauma.
have experiences and they want answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have that, John? John, you had stuff that happened to you, right?
Yeah, when I was younger, the childhood home, that's what sparked my interest in it, because, you know, being 8 years old and knowing that, you know, the experience that I had, there's no logical reason for it. And then a couple of years later, like, I wonder why that happened. You know, you have those experiences, sparks the curiosity in all of us to want to know more. And then you dive deeper into it.
Yeah. And now helping, because the mediumship to help people. So you know,
when I was younger, you couldn't go to school and talk about it because you got made fun of. So I had to keep it to myself.
The amount of times I got made fun of, I didn't even care. I'm like, you know what?
Nowadays,
crazy.
Nowadays kids can talk about it, but
different generation,
different generations, yes.
Yeah. So what happened with it? Because I understand what John is saying, because what I experienced was a normal thing, right? And I knew it was real, but what I experienced made me really say, "Oh, this is real." So what happened is my cousin was channeling, and she had spirit within her, and she bumped into my mom, and my mom didn't practice. The family practices, but my mom does not practice. And we were kids, so we don't practice. So when she was channeling spirit, she bumped into my mom, and when she bumped into my mom, now they were both channeling. So it wasn't like it's jumped. Now they both were channeling, and then my mom started moving in ways that I know she doesn't move, and you know, and that's what traumatized me. Right?
Well, I could see why.
Right, and then we were very young. Me and my brother were very young.
Yeah.
So that's what happened, and so that's the fear, I guess, for me, because even after that, I had different experiences with dreams and stuff, like I told you. But I always had that fear that if I went that way, that could happen to me, right? Yeah. So that was the fear. But I don't worry about that anymore.
Yeah. I think it would have to depend on how like empathic you are with the clairsentient ability.
And I'm very
right. And, you know, those who work with that as like their primary clair, you know, and that's their primary gift, if you will, you know, that's going to be something that you will, you know, potentially run into. And especially if you come from a long line of, you know, empaths or clairsentients or like that, it can be very intimidating. So I understand that completely.
She's had mediums, several different people come up to her and talk to her about her abilities. John Zaffis told her one time,
he was the first one.
We need to talk about your abilities.
I never spoke about my family, and he was the very first one in the paranormal field to tell me. He just came up to me and said, "We need to talk about your mediumship," and then he walked away. And I was like, "You can't do that to me."
That sounds like him, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's getting good at
it. Well, I learned from him because he does imitate him very well.
Yeah.
Come on, Ron, do it again. Let's see.
I'll bring it out somewhere throughout the show.
Okay.
Keep people tuned in for my Zappist. Yeah, she pulled a couple of aces out when we were doing sessions, running what we were formerly calling Staticom. She pulled out something. A guy wanted a number for his wife had passed, and he kept seeing the number of their wedding anniversary date. And we were hoping he asked the question, or waiting and listening to the speaker. Hope the voice says what the number is. And all of a sudden she just up. She goes, "Is it April 14th? Is it 4/14?" And he goes, "Holy what?" And that was it. But she had a vision, I guess, right? She saw something symbolic.
Yeah, I learned through mediums that some mediums will see things that relate to them to give them the hint. So, and this is funny because I saw something and I didn't realize a couple of years ago that seeing those visions was not thought. Like I thought everyone thought like that. But besides the point, what I see is a pink happy birthday sign. And at first I almost missed it because I saw it and I'm thinking that I'm thinking, you know? And so I can tell they're about to move on. And I said, freaking, I'm just going to ask. And I said, it wouldn't be 414. And he was like, like he, you know, and yeah. So, but I would have not known that if it wasn't working through other people. I would have still been stuck thinking that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
So the connection of where that has semantic value to her and not just a number to anybody else is that her birthday is 4/14.
I mean, did I not say that? I'm sorry. Yeah, my
Oh,
birthday's
So she saw a pink banner.
Oh, sure, now say it.
Symbolic, right? Pink, female, 4/14, her birthday. So she goes, is it 4/14? And the guy wigs out because that was exactly the number.
Yeah.
So she's her abilities creep up.
Yeah.
This is something that's really important that a lot of us, you know, when you work with this, whether you're a psychic or a medium, you're going to get those, they call them sign symbols or omens. They are different things that you will get, almost like it's that movie clip people that movie clip scenario that a lot of mediums talk about. It's like you see an object, like one of the analogies I use, you'll have like, here you can see this pen that's in front of my face. But if I were to take away that pen and I were to say, hey, can you still see that pen in front of my face? You can still see it, but it's not there. That's how a psychic, that's how you gather psychic clairvoyant sort of imagery. And so when you work with that more in depth, so when you see the balloons or the banner, whatever that you saw, that is an agreement from your guides or whoever is giving you that information for you to understand, almost as if it's like sign language. That you are getting that information for you to make that agreement. Okay, that's meaning, you know, birthday, anniversary, or so on. Like for me, when I do a reading, that like I usually will either see a bouquet of flowers or I'll see a bow. And that's how I know it's talking about birthday, anniversary, a big sort of, you know, celebration like that. And it's really cool that that works out. And then, you know, to get that message with the 414, that's hearing stories like that is so exciting. You know, not even just for me, but for everybody, because I'm sure everybody, you know, everybody has some sort of intuitive ability. We have the power to decipher whether we, you know, work with it deeper. But when everybody gets those kind of like, I knew that, that's what makes me happy, because, you know, a lot of my clients and a lot of my students that I have taught before have had instances like that. And it makes me feel good because I've been there. You know, it makes you feel like I'm not actually crazy. This is legit.
Yeah.
That was really nicely explained, and I'm glad that you said that you teach, because I think when you can eloquently and clearly explain something that may or may not have levels of complexity to it, it's important to get that point across the way you just did. That's really cool. And those are, I guess, those kinds of things are considered like it's like with the pen. Those are vestiges. That's something that's kind of almost imprinted but left kind of behind, where you can still picture it. Like when it rains, it rains. When it stops raining, even though it's not raining anymore, the vestiges of it, there's still puddles, there's still water on the ground. Right? There's something left behind from it, so it's not completely over with necessarily, even though it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very cool. Really nicely explained.
Yes, because that's exactly what it looks like. Because sometimes I do get those, but I guess my problem is that I just never realized. I just thought I never realized I was actually seeing something. It's so weird. I don't know.
Sometimes it's like you know, our ego, and we're like, oh no, that can't be what I'm seeing. That's, you know, I've learned just whatever pops up in my head to spit it out, no matter what.
Yeah.
Even if you think that it might not be something, it might be something to somebody else, and you think, like, I want to spit that out, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to just say it. I'm just going to say it. Yeah, even if it sounds dumb to me, you know, it's going to, maybe it might be something, and it winds up being something, and then everybody gets all giddy, you know. Like,
but I love that.
I'm excited and like, oh my god, I didn't know. Blah, blah, blah. Well, see, you are psychic. No, I'm not. Da, da, da. We all like
see, and you know, it makes me question. It makes me question. So, with what you guys are doing now, with working deeper in the sense of technically trans mediumship, but the physical mediumship involved in through the digital media. Obviously, everybody is familiar with the Staticom project. Everyone is, you know, familiar with, you know, seeing that in person, either at events or what have you. And I think we talked a little bit briefly we talked about like where you're planning on taking this project, but as you're morphing to this new side of it, what is, I guess, your goal, or what are you excited to showcase deeper with this as compared to what, people may traditionally know?
No, it's an excellent and deep question. I mean, so the first thing is that we're operating under the digital seance experience, formerly under Staticom, but since Staticom was a shared name when we had a 4-person operation, just to not cause confusion, which we think there was a little bit of when we first had divergent paths not too long ago. We want to just keep everything kind of in an orderly fashion and not confused for anybody. So we went with this. Satacom was a name that was gifted to Tony when we were working with him as a 4-person unit. So we're going with the digital seance. And so I think one of the things that we're really big on with this, besides bringing it out for those personal experiences, and don't let me forget where I'm going with this, but because I'm old and that stuff happens. Right?
It happens
like
to me too.
I know the feeling, hon. We're all there.
To Sabrina's point before, which I love, she said when something comes, she'll just spit it out, let it out. That's important. When we did the New Jersey Power Unity Expo and we had an ITC exhibit room, which we have every year there. This year on the Saturday, we had 3 different people in the same session, and we ran from 12 until 6. We ran 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, we ran 4 or 5 closed door, 30-minute sessions for people to have the digital mediumship experience. And 3 people in the one thing had tears from the one girl's grandfather coming through. He named the color of her hair, which was green. But this one woman sent me the kindest testimonial. She lost her son at the age of 15. His name came through. Something about drums and drummer came through, which he was. A few other things that she connected that also made sense to her. So she was in tears and she was like, she couldn't believe it. She was told, and this may make John upset, and I'm upset for the same reason. She was told by a few different mediums that she'll never be able to connect with her son because of the age that he died, being 15. So I don't know.
31 years ago, because of the amount of time had lapsed.
Right.
31 years. So
I don't know. Right. It's completely arbitrary, but that's what she was told. So this was huge to her. And I think what sealed the deal, which caused the most waterworks, we had a tissue box in our exhibit. We've never had that before.
No, he did.
Did
maybe
we?
Yes.
Okay.
But anyway, the most that we used it, perhaps.
Probably, yeah. We're surprised they didn't charge us for the box. The sealed the deal with this woman was at one point when she's already convinced and she's kind of holding herself together. And she, for people who don't know, she is a licensed court reporter. So she's a linguistic specialist. She listens to voices because they're not in the courtroom anymore. So she says what she does for the living, she does for the dead.
Yeah.
She hears everything.
Pretty cool.
And I tell people all the time, I will curse her out as long as she's not in the house. Because she'll hear it if she's in the house.
I may hear it outside the house.
Anywhere. So she hears something, and this goes back to that same difference between objective information and semantic information, right? Where it has value to it. And she hears and says the words, mention cookies. So she says it because she heard it. And I thought I heard it, but then when she said it, I went, that's what I heard. The lady starts bawling. She was diagnosed with diabetes 11 or so months prior, and she hadn't had anything like that.
Cookies.
Since then, right?
Yeah.
That day in the morning before she came to the expo, she made sugar-free cookies. She had them in her purse in a Ziploc bag at that moment.
Wow.
So she's thinking, that's her son coming through, and I say mention cookies. So it was a big, yeah.
So that was,
it was emotional. It was emotional. Yeah. And we love when that happens. It's just such a pleasure when that happens.
When you
because it's not about us. It's about those moments.
And I think that's the difference sometimes when stuff comes through, and to somebody it might seem random or arbitrary, but to somebody else it's meaningful, and then they get something out of it. So it's not always going to be something that's for the whole room. And that is the big difference. We categorically in the field, especially when you talk about anything with research, we talk about information in a very blanketed term, like it applies to everything. But there's objective information and there's semantic information where there's meaning behind it, right? If I walked to the corner and then she came out of the store across the street and she went like this, right? If there were two people next to me and one of those people kind of saw this gesture but didn't really know what it means, they get a little objective information, no semantic meaning whatsoever. The other person knows what the gesture means but doesn't know why she's doing it, so they get a little semantic value because they know something good happened, that's what this is for, but they don't know anything beyond that. I know that she just got off the phone, she just came down from her daughter's apartment and something happened and it was good news, we don't have to worry anymore, so I get a lot of semantic value and information from that, and somewhat objective because I know what this is and I saw the whole thing happen. So I think those degrees speak to some of these experiences when we do events, because when people hear something and when they have this and what it means and what it's coming from, it has semantic value to them. And it may not for everybody, who only may get something objective because I heard mention cookies, and cookies didn't mean anything to everybody else, but it did to this lady and it was very specific. So that's something about what we see unfold that I find fascinating, when you have those delineations between similar or the same info coming out, but that it has and strikes different people in different ways for those very reasons.
Yeah.
So,
and I think I like the way how you explain that story, because
I do too.
it to me, it's gratifying to the point where a lot of people, not so much so I guess nowadays, but a lot of people are very skeptical of mediums, as rightfully so. There are a lot of fake ones. There are a lot of people who only, have the idea either as for like a money grab or for, notoriety or what have you. They want to stretch something to make them feel important. But when you have true mediumship involved with someone and they give those sort of evidential parts, like that's I guess what I'm getting at is, I had a client, this was I think 2020, first reading ever booked with me. The only thing I knew about her, just because of where her payment for the session came through, she was out west, out in Oregon. And you fast forward through the reading, and I'm just like, I keep seeing this picture of this frog, and it makes no sense to anything that was coming through. And I picked up on this mail that was coming through for her. Everything else made sense, but I'm like, I am so sorry to ask you this random question, but he really will not let this go. What is with this frog? And normally, like when I see those, it's like, okay, what's that sign, similar omen that's tied to that I'm supposed to know? And I was asking my guides that, and they weren't giving me anything more in depth. So I just asked, what's with the frog? She starts laughing and crying at the same time, in a good way. She said, that was a tattoo. She went like this. She's like, I have a frog tattoo back here, and he has the matching frog tattoo on his arm that he got before he passed away. They got the matching tattoos there. See? So the reason why I bring this up is because when you have those sort of meaningful experiences from an intuitive standpoint and from a humane standpoint, it's really gratifying to have that sort of like instant validation to know that, hey, this, although I didn't know why I was getting this information, it makes perfect sense. And so when you have this, I think it's showcasing a lot about what mediums experience and what we go through, because a lot of it is uncertainty. And so for those who are more sensitive, they can get insecure. They can get very like, I don't know, and then they can clam up, and it just gets into a whole other ball of wax involved with that. But at the end of the day, it's nice to see individuals like you guys showcasing and helping people heal in a different form as a different medium that's not just through another person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's humbling.
But one thing that we do love to work with the Digital Seance Initiative, with the Digital Seance Experience now, is with other mediums, because we've worked with other mediums that we trust, right?
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully maybe we'll get to work with you, John, too. And I don't know if you guys, but but the best part is, it's like when the medium gives his or her reading, and then we turn on the Digital Seance Experience when some of that information comes through with the white noise spirit communication. It's like, that's when, like, everyone kind of gets to experience it, not just that one person. And that's why we do love to work with human mediums as well as our Digital Seance Experience mediumship.
Yeah, no, and John,
explain what that is, the digital seance thing.
It is essentially what we were formerly calling Staticom, and before that, direct radio voice. It's the same methodology and system, which I will explain, and don't let me forget. I wanted to say first with John that we appreciate you saying that. I like making those delineations, because a lot of times in our field, the way we phrase things and how we regard and refer to things sets the tone for how people pass along that information and what we accept. And so to just use information as a blanket term, like it just covers everything, it doesn't cover semantic information versus objective, the way I explained it. Same thing goes with the people who still have this bonkers idea that AI is going to somehow become conscious. You have knowledge, which is symbolic information, which can be algorithmic, which is what an AI would use. And then you have semantic knowledge, which is knowing, semantic knowing, and knowing involves comprehension and understanding of it, and that's something algorithmic and AI won't have. So those differences, and to point that out that way, to me is important. I will tell you this, and this is something that may make you feel better, because I know that mediums like yourself have for years come under fire because of people who were fraudulent, who were doing fallacious readings and then getting called out and caught for it. There is, I'm trying to remember the name. If it was Victoria Schlumpf, it was, I think, in the Netherlands. There was a test run where they had actors who were pretending to be mediums, and then they had actual supposed legitimate mediums like yourself who say that this is what they do, and then the actors, right? Two different groups. The parts of the brain that are supposed to be active with more complex thought and higher cognitive function, like reasoning, right? I believe it's the frontal cortex.
Yes.
Were with the people who were actors pretending to be mediums and pretending to themselves to try to genuinely own it like an actor would, right? They had excitations and activity increase in that part of the brain.
Right here.
The mediums who were supposedly the legit ones had a reduction in brain activity in that same part of the brain.
It's only mostly here, and this gets reduced. Whereas the ones that were that were acting had the activity all around from here and the frontal part.
Right. And that's fMRI and I think EEG. So what that tells you is that there is something that it looks like from a second person perspective to actually be a medium.
Mm-hmm. And we are all mediums. Go ahead. I'm sorry, John. I just want to say really quickly, I just want to say we are all mediums, but it's like you say, John, it's like working out in the gym. You have to work the muscle. If you don't practice it, then it's not going to develop. The more you do it, the better you get. That's like anything. So I'm sorry, John.
No, absolutely.
I have an experiment to talk about when you're done, John.
This is something pretty cool that I know you will understand too, is that when you work and do more so with mediumship readings, with Reiki, with, different energy work, a lot of times I've noticed, and I get yelled at a lot at events, by the way, by like my mom, Amanda. I've gotten yelled at by Sabrina once before. My body physically, like, the feeling of hunger goes away. I don't feel like I ever have to go to the bathroom, not to be too TMI with everybody here, but hello, we're here. I don't feel like I need to go do that. Right? It's like my physical body goes numb. Like I tore a ligament in my knee years ago, and it bothers me every so often. That pain, like, that vanishes. It's literally like my physical body just goes numb whenever I do readings, and it's almost like I don't want to say it's almost like an adrenaline high, because that to me feels completely different than this. It's
It
like
is.
everything kind of gets to like this floaty sort of wish-washy state, and I sound crazy for saying that, but just to
Nope.
validate, what you're talking about with the scientific portion versus what I personally feel. And I know, Sabrina, do you ever feel like that? Or even Anthony, do you guys feel
I'm
like
in
that?
another, like a different body or something like that.
Yeah.
In a different state.
Like
Yeah.
a different body. I don't feel anything or see anything. I have like this complete tunnel vision of what I'm supposed to be doing. So
I'll tell you what it is. How you can explain it is because, so this is where we're a little bit different in our aspects, our perspective with the paranormal, is that we subscribe to what's called analytic idealism, which is an ontology. It's a philosophy. It's a defining, or an attempt to define, what reality or nature actually is. Science does not do that, nor should it. Science tells us what nature and reality does. It models and predicts behaviors of it. It doesn't tell us what nature or reality is. That is more of a philosophical argument. It is a metaphysics. The paranormal field has somehow adopted this idea that metaphysics means like spiritual woo-woo stuff. It does not. It literally means that which stands behind the physics. Physics is the behavior. What's behaving? That's the metaphysics. That's what the attempt is to explain what that is. So when you're having that experience, right? So for us as idealists, reality is fundamentally mental. And we know from quantum electromagnetic theory, quantum field theory, that physicality is the result of measurement. When we measure something, it does not reveal the parameters it always had. It causes it. Physicality is the result of measurement. So the physical world as we perceive it is a dashboard representation. It's the appearance of what is out there, and there is a world out there, but it's not physical outside of consciousness. So when you have those feelings like that and you're not feeling any of those things, it's similar to when someone will either be under anesthesia or a psychedelic trip, or I know pilots in the Air Force, when they hit like G-force, they'll have like these vivid dreams that they'll go through and experience. You're not reporting back to yourself metacognitively. And that's a difference too. There's no unconscious. You're conscious or you're dead. And then hopefully that's where we think consciousness continues. Unconscious just means you're within a no report, no introspection. So when you're sleeping and you don't remember it, you're not metacognitive of it. To experience is to be conscious.
It's like if you're under, just a quick example, just under anesthesia.
Right.
If you're under anesthesia, you're not aware that they're cutting you.
Right.
But you're being cut and you're still conscious. It's just that you're not aware. Yeah. Continue. I'm so sorry.
Right. No, I understand. No, that's a great example to bring up.
I know that's what I wanted to bring up.
I was in the middle of explaining the difference between being conscious and metaconscious is to know that one experiences. To be aware introspectively is to be metaconscious. When you're doing that, you're taking your physical sensory input, right? Your sense input, which is what tells you what's going on in the world around you, and you're obscuring that. You're introspecting and you're looking inwards. You're not taking information from those things. So those things are not registering anymore. And like she said, and when someone goes under with anesthesia, one of the things that they do, one of the things in the cocktail in anesthesia is meant to block memory pathway, neural firings and neural pathways so that you can't create memories of what you're going through, because you are experiencing something. But when you get up, the idea is to be metacognitively aware of something that just happened. So they do something to block those pathways of neural firings from happening and forming memories or being aware of that the experience happened.
Yeah. So we did an experiment, and I think you'll really appreciate this. Speaking of mediumship and consciousness, we were at West Hill Manor when we did the separation. Remember when we separated ourselves? What we wanted to do was take each other apart from, so it was Beth, me, Mike, and Anthony, and we decided to split off, and Anthony and Mike were on the third floor, and Anthony decided to have earphones on that didn't have, you couldn't hear anything, and blindfold. Mike was next to him, and me and Beth went all the way down to the first floor. And what we decided to do to see how our brains would work, we would ask questions while were down on the first floor, and send it, like, just not say it out loud, just while we were talking to each other on what questions we wanted to ask, and see if up on the third floor, Anthony would just visualize in his head or hear or whatever he was thinking, and just start blurting out words or names. And then Mike would be down on his phone and getting the question that we were asking, to see if he would answer in any way that would connect to that. So there was a point in time, and we flipped this too. We also flipped it. Okay. But I remember specifically, Mike was, listening to our questions, and I decided to walk into the other room. And as I was walking into the room, I wasn't saying anything. It was physically what I was doing. He says fireplace. Well, I was at the fireplace the moment he was saying fireplace. Mm-hmm. And so Mike is like, where's Sabrina? The fireplace. Well, I just walked from the fireplace. So he was in tune with me where I was physically doing something, which was bizarre as hell. You know what I mean?
I love that story.
Then we flipped it. And I was going off, and I went on the floor, and I put the earphones and the blindfold, mm-hmm. and Beth was next to me. And actually, she was holding my hand, and we were like, and something was like, cardinal. I see a cardinal. I'm going cardinal, right? And we were going off with different things. And Mike and everybody's like, well, we didn't ask about a cardinal. And then Mike and them looked up, and on this high top, there was a cardinal. And because the house was like decorated for Christmas, so there was a cardinal. So like things that I was popping off as they were doing, and some of these things weren't even questions that we were getting an answer to. It was a physical thing that we were either seeing visually.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Or being around. So we did this. I thought it was just a cool experiment, like talking about mediumships and talking about our consciousness, and
it's very cool.
Connect
I like that.
Other. So I just wanted to put that out, like talking about experiments and trying to figure out, because people like science, people who are what do you call that word? Don't believe in mediumship, and skeptic and things, right. And like, well, how do you explain things like that? Like Beth was there. She saw me go into the other room because I went in and was looking at a picture. I was looking at what to ask, what questions to ask. I was at that fireplace exactly the same time.
Well, they can make the argument. They can make the argument. They can make an argument that we already had this preset, and then I told you to go to. There's always going to be people that can try to say that. But if that's what's important. You talk about integrity. And if you know somebody and they haven't been, I'm not saying they've done anything wrong, but if somebody's known to be faking stuff or make up, exaggerate stories, or like their reputation is not very good in the field, and people that do, and that they wouldn't do something like that because they believe, like myself and Sabrina and everyone here, I believe integrity is very high. It's very important. So trust is a big part of it. It really is.
It really is.
You were just reading her mind, Anthony. That's all.
Yeah.
I
do watch a lot of channels that debunk stuff, and there's a lot of focus on that, because I think some people, I don't know what they get out of it. I don't know if it's fame, chasing clout, or what, but they're not doing stuff.
It is.
I don't know, and I don't care. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what I can say is that shows the connection.
Yes.
And I love when that happens, because it's amazing when it happens, because the first time that it really happened with him was in the Queen Mary, and that I experienced something. I was seeing something, and they were asking questions, and I knew they were the wrong questions. But I don't know if I was maybe partially channeling. I'm not sure, because I couldn't speak. I wanted to speak, but I couldn't speak. At the moment when I was just about to, like, kind of forcing myself, he started asking the questions that I was feeling. And so I didn't have to say anything, and I was still experiencing it, and he was asking the right question. After that, when we left the room, he couldn't tell that there was something wrong, because after that, I was like, what happened? Because I wasn't sure what happened, that experience. And I was walking ahead, and he was like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. But I was processing what happened, because I couldn't believe that I was experiencing something and I couldn't speak. And he picked up on it and started asking the questions that I thought were the correct ones from what I was feeling and seeing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And
I love that, though. That's great.
The argument that Anthony mentioned that people could leverage against it, that's not scientific. It's just cynical and a lack of trust, which I agree with you. That's why the integrity is important. Now, if somebody doesn't know you, then there's always going to be some level of lack of confidence, maybe lack of trust. I think critical thinking and skepticism should be part of the recipe. I don't think it should be the finished product. So the fact that there's roles out there that people are acting as if it's like a career role, like I'm the debunker. You investigate and you get what's yielded to you, and you do the best you can, because we are all going to have an experience that is subjective with everything we do.
Yeah. Like Wes says, an open mind. Like, we wanted to see, like, me and Beth are, those, they don't do mediumship, and then we look at what we could do and learn from that. I mean, and then we could go and say, all right, well, I mean, it was just an experiment. We wanted to have fun with it and see what it was just us for. Why not? Let's try it out and see what we got out of it. And we were pretty, amazed about some of the results, because that's how we're connected with each other.
I think that's awesome. I do.
And if you keep doing it, you're gonna get better at it. You should probably do like monthly little things, the four of you, and if you keep doing it, it will get better. And
the same thing with I got to get used to that name now.
It happened the last time too.
Even with that, like, maybe somebody go off into another room and then have that experiment where what is your device spitting out versus what's in the other room being questioned or something, and see if it connects somehow. I mean, there's so many different things. It's just
so many different things.
This for me goes back to what you guys had asked. I think John had asked before about where we saw this going, or what we were looking to do with the whole project thing. That's one of them. When I mentioned a metaphysics as an explanation for what reality is, what's behaving that we observe, and experience. That's why that's important, because I think we run into, as a field, the same arguments in the same ways over and over and over again, and continually get slapped down because we say that this stuff is paranormal, it's supernatural, it's beyond science. Science can't speak to this stuff. It's supernatural. And then we go, let me prove it to you by calling in some physics. That's science. You can't do that. You just threw them out of the court. Now that's your key witness. You're bringing it back in. But we do that. And to say that we're processing something using logic, what is logic? Logic is a collection of axioms. Axioms are what? They're beliefs that are held without questions, as if they're truths. So if you're coming from a position of bias, instead of your experience dictating what your beliefs or axioms are, your axioms and beliefs are dictating what your experiences and what you accept are. It's asked backwards. So when you have a definition of reality and metaphysics that allows for the supernatural to be natural, you have a situation when things work where you're no longer having clashes with science or with theology with regard to these things. If your hypotheses and theories in the paranormal clash with ratified known laws of science, regularities in behavior of nature that are called the laws of science, then you have bad hypotheses and theories, because those are things that we know are regularities of nature. So they can't conflict with those. One of the papers I wrote was on stone tape theory and psychometry, because of the way within which we explain it does not make sense. But do I think that those things happen? Absolutely. Because the mediums have gone into these places either with touching something with psychometry or just reading and nailed stuff that was spot on, that they couldn't have known. What I don't think is some kind of an experiential state, a qualitative experience like despair, because something tragic happened, somehow was exuded from the person, stored in the wood crown molding of some Victorian mansion, and then for reasons no one's ever been able to explain, just releases like some kind of a gaseous toxin, and then people pick up on it. That's how we explain stone tape theory or psychometry. It clashes heavily with science. It's internally incoherent, and it's empirically inadequate, meaning there's no experience, there's nothing behind it to back it up. But I think that these things happen. To explain it that way, if you're going to say that something happened tragic and this person went through despair, and then that feeling is what we're picking up on because it was trapped in the wood or the crystal, because those things hold energy. There's different types of energy. Experiential states like love, happiness, fear, anxiety, those are not measurable quantitative energies, like measuring something like kilohertz or something. It's not this. There's different types, so we can't use energy also like information as a blanket statement to cover everything. But to say somebody was killed or they were tortured, and then there's this feeling of despair that we're picking up on, and to say that it was trapped and held in the wood or in the stone at that location, to say that by design, that explanation is leaning on physics. Because you're saying something is being held in something physical, right? Through an act of volition. To know that there is a feeling like despair or love or something trapped in the wood holding that energy, you would have to, on a microscopic, on an atomic level, be able to show the molecular makeup, the discrete boundary between the despair and the molecular makeup of the wood. Because again, we're leaning on physics. You can't do that. Why? Because you can't measure love or despair. Those are qualitative states, right? How much does my love weigh? What are the length of my thoughts? These are experiences we know we have. You can't quantify them. So as soon as you take that, you can't show that there's love or despair trapped in the wood. So you have no way to know it's there. It's complete guesswork. It's an appeal to magic because you have no way to substantiate it at all except going, well, it must be there. I'm feeling something. Now, as analytic idealists saying that we think reality is fundamentally mental. That is to say that what we perceive as physical is representative of the world out there, but it's not the thing in and of itself. Like a pilot in a cockpit of a plane. He could fly the plane if you blacked out the windows. We could fly everything, all off instrumentation, telling him what's going on around him. Right? What's happening in the sky, the wind, barometric pressure, everything that's going on. He's got a dashboard that tells him that. That's sensory input. That's how we operate through life. And our senses tell us these salient points, the things we need to know to navigate life and not walk under a truck. Same for the pilot. The difference is that we take what we see as physical and go, that's the world out there. That's it as it exists. The pilot never mistakes the dashboard for the sky. It's representative of it. It's what he gets through instrumentation, through perception, but it doesn't look or resemble the sky at all. It's just telling him what's going on around him. That's how we operate. We don't see the world in a mirror image of everything that there is out there. Here's what would happen.
I was thinking of something.
Sorry.
He started with the stone tape theory, right? But then we believe with the stone tape theory is that the same way that you see a color, the color red, and it gave you a happy feeling, and someone knows it could represent something awful. So when you walk into these places and you see something and you may touch it or feel it, we believe it's more you're picking up on something that's happened, and it's being represented to you again because you're seeing it, like you're seeing the color red, and it gives you that emotion. So you're picking up on an emotion by seeing whatever it is, or even feeling whatever it is that's there. But it's not because the emotion is stored in it.
Yes.
It's because of you observing it and then picking up on that emotion that someone experienced before you.
Yeah.
That's what we believe. That's
not the question.
I'm sorry because I was thinking that and I didn't want to lose it.
Okay.
There's a question from Wes. He wants to know how you explain intuition.
Wes, excellent. If you want to take a stab at it first,
intuition?
Yeah, how would you explain intuition? If not, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. To me, well, to me, intuition is something that comes within, that gives you the warnings to be able to navigate and survive. It's the instinctual part in you that you should probably listen to.
There it is. Yes.
That's what
I think, right. I think it's instinctual. So, and as an idealist, when we say that reality is fundamentally mental, that doesn't mean there's not a world out there. The thing is we're saying that what's out there, just like the cockpit and the pilot, we're born in the cockpit. So what we perceive, we think is all that there is to it. But we know, just from investigating the stuff we do, that there's parts of the light spectrum, infrared, that we don't see. We know that there's part of the audio spectrum that we don't hear. So we know that there's things beyond what our senses can tell us. And instrumentation, like if you take a radio and turn it on, there's radio stations flying past your head now that you don't hear until that device modulates it. So it's within which your dashboard picks it up. Now you hear the music. So we know that things work that way. That's something that we see in nature. Wes wants the explanation for intuition. You explain it scientifically.
Well, if psychology is a science, then yes, it's been explained by Dr. Jung. It's been explained by
right.
By, those Freud, but mostly Carl, Dr. Carl. And I'm a huge study of him, and he's dwelled into it. So I don't even want to tackle something that has been like pounded to the ground by Dr. Carl Jung. So
right. And Jung was at heart, technically he was an idealist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was an idealist, which is where we're coming from.
Which is under an analytic idealism, it's a collective mind, right? And we're dissociated from it. What we believe is that people seem to believe that we are outside of nature, but we are within nature. Right. Not only are we within nature, but we are immersed within it.
Right.
And when if you talk about mediumship, if you talk about even just raw experience, which is thought, nature doesn't happen to us, and it doesn't happen by us, but it happens through us.
Right.
Whether it be mediumship or regular experience that we experience all around us. That's I wanted to put that out there as far
as that's true.
But
I love Wes. But so to answer his
I love Wes.
We can go neuroscience. That's fine.
To answer his question, it's intuition. When we intuit something, it's like Lord has said, it's instinctual. And if we think that reality is fundamentally mental, then we are within consciousness. Consciousness is not within us or within our head. So it's the same way when you sense something, when you feel something. Some things are triggered from outside of us within the transpersonal space that we all share. Some things are what's called endogenous. They're feelings you could have. If you were locked up in a room with no light, no sound, your ears covered, your eyes covered, you could still experience love or lust or hunger, right? Because those are feelings from within. Those are endogenous states. When we say reality fundamentally mental, we say we believe this is this to us is the most skeptically parsimonious and plausible metaphysics for explaining what reality is that we know of on the table today. We're not saying it's correct. We think it's the closest that makes sense. It doesn't clash with science. And incidentally, too, to Wes's point with explaining it scientifically, what's interesting is metaphysics. It does not. I believe the guy's name was John Copper, who came up with the idea that for something to be scientific methodologically, it has to be falsifiable. But that applies to sciences and experiments to model and predict behavior. It's not applicable to a metaphysics, right? Which is what we're talking about. So if you take that model and it's based on, and Anthony, if you know Jung, then you kind of probably have an idea where we're going with this. Is that the idea is that there's one universal consciousness, there's one mind at large, and each one of us is as a fractal part of that. We're alters of that. And is there something in nature that we see that we could extrapolate from that would make sense? Yes, it's dissociative identity disorder. It used to be multiple personality, where one mind appears as multiple centers of identity, and each one identifies as themselves separate, but within one mind. And that dissociative boundary that we have between us, as it appears, is our body. That's what the dissociative boundary looks like to somebody else. So I believe that's how we have those connections, where we'll have those moments like you guys have at the experiment, where we call it telepathic, because essentially it's thought. It's the energy of thought.
Yeah, it's mind communication, mind to mind communication.
Right.
Whether, to me, honestly, and this is just a theory of mine, but the same way that we communicate with ourselves, it's mind to mind communication. It's the same way that we experience raw thought, raw experience. It's telepathy, mind to mind communication. I believe.
I'm not sure if Wes maybe wants Ron to neuroscience. So a neuroscientist has located the part of the brain where we are in an intuitive mode. Is that I'm a little rusty on that subject matter. I don't know. Have they found the exact location in the physical brain when you're using your intuitive, trying to use your intuitive part of your brain, your mind?
I would say that's from.
Yes, she was going to say, yeah. I think because there's something called integrated information theory, which is a scientific attempt at being able to explain consciousness from a perspective that would be scientific. And she wants to explain the whole idea with the hotspot and everything. But it's interesting because there isn't a part of the brain where intuition is. There may be parts of the brain that show excitations or activity during.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
somebody intuiting something, because that could be misleading. There was a paper, an academic paper came out within the last number of years that said science finally finds the part of the brain where memory is stored. Because to date, they have never found anywhere in the brain where memories are stored. But this paper says it. And if you look at the paper and you read it, what it says is when you have an experience, right, there are neural pathways and firings and things that happen in your brain that correlate with that experience. And that what the paper was saying is that when you reflect on that experience, when you introspect and think about that experience that you already had, that the pathways and firings in your brain mirror the original experience. So that's not finding memory. That's just saying that when you think about it again, it looks the same.
Yeah, they don't know where it stood, doesn't know where it comes from. Right. It's not stored in the brain.
Right.
But they clickbait, And then people think that memories are stored in the brain.
Right.
So
Pam Barry.
I know, I saw a birthday girl.
Happy birthday, girl. She is a wonderful human being.
Yes, she is. So what do you two have coming up?
The next thing is
so January 18th, we have a sold out event at the Shanley Hotel in Napanock, New York.
Yes, I saw that advertised.
We're super excited. That place is so cool. They Kelly and Tracy and Stephanie from up there always have supported it and treated us really well.
We have some couple of library events, which I can't remember right now.
Yeah, some library events with Richard Michelle as Spirit Artist.
Penhurst.
Hanover Tavern Paracon.
That's right.
I'll be doing at the end of January. Anthony Seminelli from Seekers Club and the Paranormal in Queens is going to be coming down with me. Someone is going to see her granddaughter for her first birthday at the end of the month.
I can't, I can't miss it. I'm so sad because the passing of our friend David Taylor, and they're going to do like a memorial thing for him. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I'm kind of sad that I'm going to miss that because I love going, and then it's kind of extra special this year. But my granddaughter's turning 1.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't miss
milestones. You can't miss the milestone.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm excited.
So that, and then the events, the expos that we mentioned before, all the way up through September.
And then we
have the bash. You got to remember the bash.
Wow, you're full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bash, New Jersey Paraunity, Penhurst, the Maine Paranormal and Horror Con up in by Augusta, Maine, Festival of the Unexplained in the UK. I'm.
If you look in our personal Facebook page, I guess you can find, or in our website too, if you're interested. And I'm always posting.
Can you put it in the chat room so people know where it is?
Sure.
I'm scheduled to speak at the Halifax Paranormal Symposium also in September. Next year, which is what Wes is talking about.
I thought he was just.
I thought he was just
joking.
Just to say,
See what happens, Wes. See what happens.
You never know. You never know with Wes.
Yeah, I thought he was joking too, but what do I know?
We all need to make sure we have our passports all ready to go there.
The Halifax one, man.
Yeah. We all need to go to Canada.
Yeah, let's fly out to there. Let's go there.
Yeah.
When's the Canada one?
Tell us when the Canada one is.
Halifax is in September.
Oh, okay.
It's in September. It's a paranormal. Yeah, it's a paranormal symposium, which we did the Gettysburg one last year, where you had to submit an abstract and actually the paper that I submitted was on analytic idealism, philosophy of consciousness and mind, and ITC and spirit communication, because I think if we look at what reality is and how we define it and make the paranormal normal and not supernatural and no longer conflict with the sciences, we have something that benefits the field. And instead of continuing to just say ghosts just know how to do it, or science can't answer that stuff, and because there's never going to be any ground gained by spiritual bypassing and just saying, no, that just happens, ghosts just do it. We have to do better.
That's it, right? Paranormal.com.
I agree.
Yeah,
that's probably why for the longest time I have always tried to bring the realistic side to doing, intuitive work, because everybody thinks like it's this great big mystical woo-woo, like, oh my gosh, it's such a gift. Everybody has the ability to work with energy and work with intuition. You just need to understand it and work with it just as you would any other skill. Yeah. And so I try to take the woo-woo out of it and try to be like, okay, everything that you're experiencing, we all can experience.
Anthony said it's hard, right? Anthony said it's hard, right?
It's tough. That's a whole nother discussion. We could talk 2 hours,
Yeah, no, it is. You walk into any paranormal location half the time, and there's somebody going, right over there under the stairs, there's a portal to another dimension. How do you know that? There's no, it's empirically inadequate. What do you have to support that other than you hope so? Mirrors are portals to other dimensions. There's no evidence to ever support that ever. If it's true, I'm not saying it can't be possible. I'm saying, do you have a reason to believe it?
Do you have any, proof or evidence other than, something tangible?
A reason.
Yeah, even a reason, even a valid reason.
What?
I'm going that they can do it.
Can I give my theory on that just really quick, not to keep the show going for longer? In my opinion, I think that portals or whatever that intuitives claim to see, I think a lot of us now, how many of us and those watching and or us here, have you ever seen an aura or anything like that's either attached to a person or that's around an object, that energetic field that has sometimes color to it? Has anyone seen that before?
Yeah.
If I tune into it, yeah.
Right. For those who have, and those who say, oh, there's a portal over there, is it actually a portal? Or are you just seeing a big extra spot of energy that you're maybe moving, because energy is ever flowing no matter what type of energy, except, obviously scientifically there are different forms, but the energy that we are actively working with when it comes to intellectual beings, it's ever flowing, it's always moving, it's like water. And when you see that moving over there, is it actually a portal, or are you just seeing energy that's there and it's showing as a potential aura or a cluster of, something?
I like that.
It's an interesting theory. I think, because that's what I think. I think they are seeing something that appears to be like a portal. Whatever it is, they are interpreting it as a portal, but it can be anything else. But whatever the symbol is that they're seeing, if you want to take visions, if it is in your head or outside of you and you're seeing something that appears to be a portal, but that doesn't mean that it is. Whatever that is not, it's the image of what's really behind it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. And I'm not saying that, it may have derailed it a little bit. I'm not saying that people are saying that they see portals. I'm saying that they say that there is one. And when they say that, I don't know if anybody who's ever told me they've seen a portal, but I think when they say it, it's predicated on they think that that's an active spot where activity has been captured in that spot. The mirrors part of it,
I think it's a little bit of both.
The mirrors part of it, to me, I think, is the same way a radio modulates a signal we can't hear, and then we can detect it. It hits our dashboard, right, through our sensors. I think that's similar, right? Because if a photon hits my eye, I see it. If a photon hits my chair, I don't. So I think that the way that light behaves, a refraction of light, perhaps something to do with that, and photons may modulate an experience that we would not visually otherwise have if not for the mirror. Right? Maybe something like that. It's a very loosely based guess hypothesis on how mirrors might play a role, but until somebody says, I just threw a quarter into the mirror and it came out of that one, until that happens, I'm not comfortable calling it a portal to another dimension.
I would agree with that.
I think when that does happen, Ron, it's going to be you that's going to experience it. Then you're going to poop yourself.
Yeah. Purely because I got my quarter back.
Right.
There you go.
Look your quarterback.
Well, I think we need to thank you guys so much for coming on, and you really
Thank you so much.
explained a lot of really
you.
cool things. So
Thank
when
you.
people watch this back, they'll get to learn a lot from just
We
watching.
hope.
We love being on. We love
hope.
speaking to you guys. It's
Yeah.
a great
Well,
conversation.
I'm so glad. You need to come back.
We learned a lot.
Yep, we'll come back
Oh,
anytime
always
you ask.
Every
Always
time.
learning. We're always learning. Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
time. Yeah. And
So are we?
we right. And that we don't claim to have it figured out. We're just trying to take what is the most parsimonious or efficient explanation towards stuff that we know.
Least amount of steps.
Right. People experience, people have these experiences. We just want to explain it without conflicting with science and in the least amount of steps to be able to make sense of something without creating steps for holding on to a belief or creating a narrative just for the purposes of having one, kind of a thing. So that's what we're trying to do. And these concepts seem to allow, again, the paranormal to be quite normal. It's nature doing what it does.
There you go. There's no such thing as an expert in the paranormal field. We're all learning.
I'm joking.
Except for Anthony, of course. You know, Anthony's our only expert.
Yeah, because he knew she was in the fireplace without knowing.
That's right. And real quick, if I may, for Wes, you only need proof if you're trying to prove it scientifically. Science doesn't prove, math proves. Science, the scientific method, is to lean in to what's most probable based on all possibilities to explain something. And that's to assume we even know all the possibilities. I don't think that we do. But that is what scientifically explaining something is.
You should look into IIT, Wes, if you're familiar with
integrated information theory. It's an attempt to explain reality and consciousness through science.
It goes in well with analytic idealism. If you believe that the world is mental, it really flows nicely.
It dovetails nicely.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
I'll have to think.
That's a whole different other topic.
Yeah.
And if anybody's interested
in 2 weeks. And
I
want to thank everybody that was watching.
The new book, Afterlife Contact, which is on Amazon, has a lot of what we were talking about with regards to spirit communication and idealism as a reality, but mental reality, fundamentally mental, is a lot of it's covered in this book. There will probably be another one coming out that goes a little further into it, but
cool.
Yeah.
There you go, people, if you want to get a good book.
Yeah,
thank you for having us on, and thank you to everybody who showed up to watch.
Again. I'm so glad you could make it.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Happy birthdays and all that good stuff. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And the chat room was going crazy tonight, which I'm really pleased. It was awesome.
That's cool.
We'll see you guys again in 2 weeks. Good night, everybody.
Bye. Night.
Bye, guys. Love